Yo guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, it's gonna be quite interesting. It is the Battle of the West, right? So these two launches, Faber Residence versus the Sen, is slightly under the radar. And in today's video, I'm gonna be covering some of the project details and also the pros and cons for each development if you were to consider them. So stay tuned to the end of the video to find out more. Okay, so right now, I'm gonna be doing a timeline recap for the upcoming launches, and now I've added in for the Sen and also Faber Residence, okay? So for the upcoming launches, on 26th of September, we have Sky at Holland's preview, followed by 3rd of October, we have Faber Residence and Penrith's preview, and then on 8th of October, we have Zion Grand preview. 11th of October will be Sky at Holland's booking day, followed by 18th of October, we have Faber Residence and Penrith's booking day, and then the Sen will start the preview then. So for the Sen, the booking day will be about 2 weeks later, and then for 25th of October, we have Zion Grand's booking day. So overall, this is the timeline for all the 5 upcoming launches. So that's why I think for consumers such as yourself, it's going to be quite interesting because the developers if you have seen Sky Holland's pricing, Faber Residence pricing, and also Penrith pricing, definitely they are priced to sell. So the developers are trying to capture the market share, and in order to do that, they are going to price the developments well. So it's going to be quite interesting to see the take-up rate for each development. For those of you that want to take a look at the show flat, you can reach out to me at WhatsApp 8484-9302. I'll be there involved in all of the launches, and at the same time, I can give you a personalized consultation and your numbers to decide whether this is a good buy or not. So looking forward to hear from you guys. Okay, so right now let's take a look at Faber Residence's key project details. So first up, we have the Faber Walk GLS. So this is the land bid price. It was awarded to Guaco Land at $900 PSF PPR, and then this works out to be estimated break even of about 1682 PSF PPR. So definitely this will be one of the cheaper plots for the year. In fact, the Sen, right, the land bid price is 800 plus, even cheaper than Faber Residence. Later I'll go through in more detail for the Sen. So back to Faber Walk, and you can see as a result of Faber Residence, the land bid price being so low, Guaco Land was able to launch at such an attractive PSF below 2000 starting from. So here we have the 2 bedders, 646 square feet starting from 1.29 million at 1997 PSF, 3 bedders, 797 square feet from 1.59 million at 1995 PSF, 4 bedders, 1119 square feet from 2.39 million at 2136 PSF, 5 bedders, 1485 square feet starting from 3.19 million at 2148 PSF. So my first impression when I saw the starting from prices, I was quite surprised that the 2 and 3 bedders was like 150 PSF cheaper than the 4 and 5 bedders. So just an overview, right, of why the developers actually price it this way. Firstly is because the 2 and 3 bedders, for the entry level pricing, right, they are going to be closer towards the AYE side. So that is why the developers have to give a slight premium as compared to the 4 and 5 bedders, which have the better facing, which is inwards or even towards the canal side. So that's the first part. Second part is, so this is a low-rise development up to 5th floor. You have to be mindful of how much per floor drum Guaco Land is going to price this development, because in the end, if level 1 to level 5 you don't see a significant price difference, then you should go for the higher floors. But if the price jump per floor, right, becomes very significant, then you need to take note whether you should consider the other stacks or you should consider the higher floors. And judging from Guaco Land's pricing strategy, don't be surprised if they actually price the ground floor more expensive than the second floor. So there's quite a few factors that I already have factored in for my clients. It's going to be quite an interesting launch, especially for Faber Residence and also the upcoming launches. So for those of you that's not familiar with where Faber Residence is, right, over here I have put the site plan and also on top of the site area itself, then you can see so for Faber Residence, we are surrounded by Sungai Ulu Pandan Canal, and then right beside us we have waterfront at Faber, and then on the Faber Walk side we are surrounded by also the landed enclave, and across the AYE we are also facing Park Rivera, Whistler Grand, Twinview that side. So overall this is the area for Faber Residence. Okay, so now for additional information, the developer, as we all know, Guaco Land, definitely going to be a solid product. Total number of units, 399 units. So the land size we're looking at is 277,000 square feet. Tenure starts from February 2025, 99 years. And then the construction method, APCS system. So this one allows you to hack down certain walls, and it's not the usual prefab kind of design. TOP estimate first quarter of 2029. And here, right, we have a total of 9 wide blocks for 54 Faber Walk all the way to 70 Faber Walk. And then the number of units per floor, I think this is something you need to take note, because I would say this is on the higher side. So 2 blocks of 8 units per floor, 5 blocks of 9 units per floor, and then 2 blocks of 10 units per floor. Number of car park lots, we have 1:1 ratio, and then EV lots we got 13, and then they also have bicycle lots. Okay, so this is the site plan for Faber Residence. And then for those of you that is looking towards a better view, right, you need to get something along the Sungai Ulu Pandan Canal, that side, because to be very frank, this is a low-rise development. So for those of you that want en bloc, you only have like a few stacks which is facing towards the reservoir side. They are block 70, block 68, and block 66. For those of you that can tahan a little bit of noise but still prefer slightly en bloc view, it has to be towards the AYE side already, okay? So those will be block 58, block 60, and block 70. Other than that, the other stacks will be facing towards the landed side, will be block 54, 56, and 58. So definitely, if you see just now the starting from prices, the premium, right, let's say for the 4 and 5 beders, they are in the more premium stacks, which is facing outwards or even inwards towards the swimming pool side. Okay, so over here we have some of the measures taken by Guaco Land to mitigate some of the noise from the expressway side. So for the stacks that is highlighted in purple, Guaco Land is going to do a glass railing and also acoustic ceiling. And then for those that is highlighted in blue, Guaco Land is just going to be doing the acoustic ceiling. So for these acoustic ceilings, right, you can see at the show flat they do show this, and this will be particularly for the towers 56, 58, 60, 62, 68, and 70. And of course, developers are going to load a premium for the stacks that is away from the expressway. This is something that you need to take note. But of course, for the stacks that is facing towards the landed side, I still expect a more premium pricing, because in the end, once you cross the landed side, which is about 3 stories high, you're still going to be getting a good view. Okay, so right now let's dive into the pros for Faber Residence. So first up, we have the big land plot. Secondly, we have 1 km to Nanhua Primary School. Third, strong resale price support and also rental yield. The fourth, strong history of profits. Fifth, very strong demand and supply. And 6, Jurong Lake District transformation. Okay, so right now let's dive deeper right into the land size comparison. So now we are looking at 500-meter radius from Faber Residence. So first up, we have Faber Residence. Land size is 277,000 square feet. Total number of units is 399. Followed by Whistler Grand. So Whistler Grand is a high-rise development, 210,000 square feet and 716 units. Park Rivera, 203,000 square feet, 752 units. Twin View, 176,000 square feet, 520 units. Waterfront at Faber, 162,000 square feet land and 210 units. So in terms of the land size comparison and density of the development, definitely Faber Residence will be a lot better in that ratio. But do take note, although the land density is much better at Faber Residence, they do have a total of 9 blocks. At least this is something that you should take note of. So for the next part, we are looking at Nanhua Primary School. So if you are a Westie and a Singaporean, definitely this is a school that doesn't need much introduction. So based on what I see at some of the primary school ranking websites, so Nanhua is at least in the top 10. I think there is some variation. Over here they say that it's number 2 lah. Yeah, but I will keep it more conservative. It's a easy top 10 school in Singapore. Okay, so next up we're going to be talking about the strong resale price support and volume as well. So first up we see Park Rivera, looking at the average PSF of 1679, and then the max PSF we have is 1806. Sales volume we are looking at 20, and then for Twin View 1008 PSF and then to a maximum of 1009 PSF. Sales volume 11 for the year. Whistler Grand average about 1008, almost 1009, and then we have crossed the $2,000 PSF mark, and we are looking at 32 units being transacted in a year, and this is definitely a very strong performance from the resale over here. And do bear in mind that these are non-harmonized, so comparing to Faber Residence, right, you still need to add about 5 to 7% to account for the AC ledge. So in terms of PSF, definitely here you can see the TOP dates 2019, 2021 and 2022. So when you compare to Faber Residence, when Faber Residence TOP, the minimum age gap, right, we're looking at is 7 years already. So is it fair that a 7-year-old development be priced the same PSF as a brand new launch. Yeah, so definitely I think in terms of the resale price support, we have a very strong base over here. Okay, so next up we're going to be talking about a strong rental yield and also volume. So what was quite surprising to me is that the number of transactions in terms of rental is very high here. Park Rivera 220 rental transactions and the rental yield is 4.1%. Definitely very impressive. Twin View 89 transactions at 3.7% yield. Whistler Grand 96 transactions at 4% yield. So now you might ask, for a development that is not even near any MRT as of today, how can it command this kind of strong rental volume and even rental yield? So now you can take a look. Alright, this is the snapshot of the area itself. So for this Park Rivera, Whistler Grand and Twin View, we are surrounded by a lot of industrial areas that you can see towards the Ulu Pandan Jurong East side, or even the cycle and carriage side, or if you look downwards beside Pandan Reservoir side, we also have quite a few industrial areas. And if you look further down the AYE, you can also see actually at the Tech Hub, all this, you have a lot of potential tenant pool. So on top of that, you also have the International Business Park, Trade Hub 21. Okay, so now let's take a closer look on the historical profits that's already proven in this area. So for Park Rivera, the highest profit recorded in the past 1 year, we have up to 815k, so 100% profitable transactions, annualized about 3.7% at 20 transactions. Okay, for Twin View, up to 803k, annualized gain about 4.1%, also 100% of profitable transactions. Whistler Grand up to 831,000, so number of transactions that's profitable 32 and a very impressive 5.1% annualized gains. So next up we have is the demand and supply analysis. So for Park Rivera, we have a total of 20 transactions in the past 1 year, and I checked on Property Guru, we have a total of 33 listings. So you can see that this is the listings demand to supply ratio. And for Twin View, 11 transactions and we have a total of 14 listings. Whistler Grand 32 transactions and we have a total of 46 listings. Of course, for each bedroom type, it tells a different story, so it's important to dive deeper into the numbers. And from my data, definitely there is a few particular bedroom type that is outperforming the rest. Yeah, so this one you can feel free to reach out to me if you want a deeper dive into a particular bedroom type. Okay, so last but not least, we have the Jurong Lake District transformation. So definitely going to be quite exciting for the developments coming up over here. And for those of you that's familiar with prices at Jayden, Sora and Jurong Lake Garden Residences, you already know that the PSF that is accepted in this area is going to be quite high. For Faber Residence, it's going to be a very direct beneficiary of this Jurong Lake District transformation as well, because you can see we are so near International Business Park, and in this district transformation, it is already right smack here. Yeah, so definitely for Faber Residence, I'm quite sure even if you're buying for rental yield, you still be getting very strong rental returns. And on top of that, you can get a very low risk entry price. Okay, so now we already have covered all the pros for Faber Residence. Let's take a close look on the cons for this development as well. So first up, it is a low rise development, so it's up to 5th floor. Second thing is not near any MRTs. Third one is expressway facing AYE. Fourth is lack of nearby amenities. Okay, so now let's take a look for the height comparison. So in the nearby 500-meter radius, we have Faber Residence maximum of up to 5th floor, and then you can see for Whistler Grand we are up to 36th floor, Park Rivera 36th floor, Twin View 36th floor, and only Waterfront at Faber which is 5th floor. So why the government actually limit on the Faber Walk side, Faber Residence and Waterfront at Faber of a maximum of 5th floor, Because if you notice in the area itself, there is landed nearby. So imagine in the landed area, you suddenly have 36-story building beside you. A lot of the natural lighting and even basically a lot of things will change in the immediate area, and it can even affect the landed pricing there. So I'm quite sure the government don't want to cause too much of a ruckus over there. So that's why they have a specific plot ratio for Faber Residence and Waterfront at Faber due to the landed nearby there. So this is some of the things that you need to take note of. And of course, when we look at the transaction prices, all this, it makes more sense to take a similar floor range, for example at Whistler Grand and Park Rivera as compared to Faber Residence. You shouldn't be taking the high floor PSF to compare with Faber Residence. That one will make the data a little bit too skewed. Yeah, so at least you know what are the people paying for the low floors at Whistler Grand and how much they are willing to pay for. I think this will give you a more accurate sensing on the price support for the low floor units in the Faber Walk area. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to be talking about the distance towards the MRT. So based on what I can eyeball in the map itself, right, the nearest MRT is going to be towards the Jurong Regional Line. So this one will open before Faber Residence TOP. So this one, Jurong Town Hall MRT JE6, and Guacoland has said that it's within walking distance. In my personal opinion, it does look a bit far and not within walking distance, but you can take it with a pinch of salt lah. I will just take what the developer has told me, okay? But based on eyeball, it's gonna be quite a bit of a walking distance, so very likely you still need to take bus to go towards the MRT side. For the expressway facing, just now I already covered a portion on it, and developers are gonna use some noise mitigation techniques to lessen the AYE noise, so I won't delve too much onto it, okay? So now onto the next part, we're going to be talking about the lack of nearby amenities. So for those of you that's familiar with this West Coast area, right, and even staying at Park Rivera or Twin View area, to be very frank, if you want to go get your groceries or do your shopping, right, most likely you're going to be going towards the Clementi side, or you're going to be heading towards Jurong East area. Yeah, because in this area, to be very frank, there's limited options, and if you guys are familiar, I think along the Infinity that stretch, there's a couple of like F&B shops, but definitely it's not going to be sufficient for what you're looking for in terms of, like, for example, shopping needs, all this. Yeah, so definitely the lack of amenities will be one of the key factors that you need to consider as well. And for those of you that's looking around for the current launches, you can take a look at my previous video where I've done a comparison between Penrith, Sky at Holland, and also Zion Grand. I think all this tied up with today's video is going to be giving you a good overview of what are the pros and cons for each project and which one you should aim for. Okay, so now that we have covered the various pros and cons for Faber Residence, let's take a closer look into the Sen. So for the Sen, I think this one is a little bit under the radar. So for Sustain Land, this is the developer, and the highest bid, right, for this particular plot, 844 PSF PPR, and this is at De Souza Avenue. So this is right beside Park Natura and also Verdell. So for this area, right, I was quite surprised for RCR. They actually managed to get it cheaper than, let's say, like Faber Residence, because for this area, you still, I would say, if you drive, right, it's slightly more prime. I think because of the various like features like Nanhua Primary School result in a higher bid price for Guacoland. And this one estimate a PSF break even of 1602. So if we just use a similar multiplier, right, we should be looking at about 1007 PSF if you compare to Sky at Holland. But I think very unlikely, and based on my estimate, I think it should be in the 2003 PSF range, because this is also not a very high rise development. But I could be wrong, because in the end, if Sustain Land, they got the land cheap and they want to move the units, right, they should price it cheaper than Faber Residence. Because if this is going to be more expensive than Faber Residence, then buyers might still prefer Faber Residence side lah, because a lower entry price, and you still got a lot of factors that provide a safe entry product. Okay, so for those of you that's not too familiar with where the Sen is actually at, so you can see over here, we are going to be surrounded by quite a few landed areas, and at the same time, we are right beside Park Natura, and we have the newly TOP Verdell also. So of course, we got the Hillfort, Sherwood Condo. So Sherwood Condominium is very old already, and we got Springdale, Bukit Regency, South Haven on the other side. Yeah, so overall, this is the area itself. And to be honest, for the amenities, because I serve a couple of landlords at Park Natura before, most of the time you need to go towards the Shell to get your shopping done. If not, right, you need to go towards Beauty World side, which is not within walking distance. I would say you still need to take a couple of bus stops to reach the area to get your shopping done lah. So now onto the key project details for the Sen. So over here you can see we have 5 blocks of 10-story buildings. So this one is going to be higher than Faber Residence already, and it does have a childcare center, communal landscape deck, basement car park, swimming pool, and communal facilities. So there's a total of 5 blocks: Block 222, 224, 226, 228, and 230. District 21. The commencement of the lease is going to be at January 2025, and 99 years. Site area is about 19,000 square meters. So I think this one translates to about 200,000+ square feet lah. 347 units, and number of car park lots we have is 1:1, 347. So over here, this is the site plan for the Sen, and then you can see for block 222, we are having the childcare center at the bottom, and then we have block 224, 226, 228, and 230. So overall, this one site plan I think slightly more impressive than what we see at Faber Residence, because it does have the facilities and they still can squeeze in the tennis court, and we have the bigger drop-off point. For the Faber Residence, right, because they are limited by the plot ratio in terms of height, so as a result, you can see like instead of similar land size to what we see at the Sen, but Faber Residence you have a total of 9 blocks. So as a result, Guakulan has to be a little bit more creative with the landscaping and how they design the overall site plan. But overall, I think from what I see at the Sen, it does look a little bit more not so cramped and more spacious, and also at the same time the facilities is more complete here. Okay, so right now let's dive into the pros for the Sen. Okay, so first up, we're going to be looking at the big land plot in this area. Second thing is cheap RCR land bid price. Third one is price support from the nearby resale condos. Fourth is beauty world rejuvenation. Okay, so right now let's take a look right within the 500-meter radius of the Sen. What is the land size in terms of the comparison lah? So you can see the Sen we are looking at is 207,000 square feet of land. Maximum floor is about 10 floor. Verdell is about 150,000 in terms of land size. Maximum floor is 5th floor. So I think the Sen is already a more superior product as compared to Verdell because it has a higher floor limit lah. Raintree 417,000, Parkview Apartments 100,000, Sherwood Condominium about 225,000, Park Natura 165,000. So in the vicinity itself, right, you already can see that actually the Sen really does stand out as a newer product in this area, and the land size is going to be a decent size. So that's why I'm quite surprised like the Sen area, right, is a bit more under the radar, but overall I think it still stands out in this place. Okay, so next up we're going to be comparing the land price from 2025 all the way to 2026. Okay, so you can see the one I circled, the Sen at De Souza Avenue. This one is a D21 plot at the RCR region, $841 in terms of land bid price. And then you can see what are some of the transacted land bid prices, right? This really makes it a very attractive option. And then you already can see for Woodlands Drive, this is a EC plot that is bidded by CDL. I mean, you know where is Woodlands area, right? D25 OCR region, 782 PSF PPR. It really doesn't make sense for the Sen, right, for this area to be priced so close to a EC plot in the Woodlands area. Yeah, so definitely if you think that Woodlands Drive is gonna sell very well, then all the more the Sen should also be selling very well. But of course, we need to see how much sustained land is gonna price the Sen lah. If you're gonna pricing it high, then it's gonna be moving not so fast. But of course, they are having a lot of time to sell. Actually, developers have 4 years to sell. They don't have to do what Guakulan is aiming to achieve, which is trying to sell like more than 90% on day one. And then you can see for what's coming up next year, Bayshore Road D16 OCR, and then the land price 1388, Chuan Grove OCR 1376 PSF PPR. So definitely I think a lot of the land bid prices is much higher than what we see at the Sen. So that's why like if you see even at Bloomsbury, it's an RCR plot in the District 5 area at 1193 PSF PPR. So the Sen we are looking at almost $200, close to $300 price gap in terms of the land price. Okay, so next up, let's talk about the resale price support in the past 6 months. So do take note, we have to account for the pre-harmonization PSF and also much older projects. So for Verdell, right, we have a total of 4 transactions in the past 6 months, and we have a PSF of average transacted about 1,009 already. So definitely this is quite promising because we do see very strong support here. Park Natura, but this one is slightly different because it's much older. At the same time, it's a freehold development. Total of 2 transactions, and we are looking at is 1670 PSF. Okay, Hillford. So Hillford is also another slightly different development because the lease is also a little bit lesser, 1480 PSF. So overall, this is the pricing in the area. So next up, we have the Beauty World rejuvenation in this area. So you can see this is the URA plans for the Beauty World itself. And then if you already have been following since like the reserve residences days, all this, they have been doing a lot of work towards this area. So definitely, of course, we are not going to be direct beneficiary of the Beauty World transformation, but we are really in a very close region to this area. So if the Beauty World area, the pricing, you already know some of the resale already crossed $3,000 PSF, it can spill over towards the Verdell and the Sen side. And on top of that, you can see based on the master plan, it does seem like the government still plan to release more plots here, and then you can expect probably a higher land price here if the Sen actually does well. Okay, so now that we have covered all of the pros for the Sen, now let's take a closer look right into the cons for the project itself. Okay, so first up is the 99-year in a freehold area. Second thing is not near any MRT. Third thing is it doesn't really have any schools within 1 km as well. Okay, so now if we compare the tenure, right, okay, we can kind of cross out the Rain Tree because it's a bit further away, but in the immediate vicinity, right, you can see Parkview, freehold, Sherwood, freehold, Park Natura, freehold. So of course all this, when you compare to like the Sen and Verdell, they are both 99 years lah. This is a similar situation to what we see at Sky Holland. And then you can see over here, this is the map itself. For the Sen to go towards Beauty World MRT is definitely not walkable lah. I think if walk, we are looking at more than 15 minutes walk, and that is, I think, maybe 3 or 4 bus stops worth of distance. Okay, so for the last part, this one I use the MOE website one. So this one, right, they say that the Sen is not within 1 km of Bukit Timah Primary School, but this one I think we just wait for developers confirmation, but based on what I checked, it doesn't lie within. Maybe certain blocks they will be within the radius, but certain blocks is not, because if you see it's 1.035 km, so it's like 30 meters like that only. So I think it's very tight. This one you need to take note on the radius. Okay, so overall that was the various pros and cons for Faber Residence and also the Sen. Let me know in the comment section which project you guys prefer and actually think which one is a better buy. And for those of you that is looking at Faber Residence, this is an example that I've prepared for my client. One of them also looking at the 3-bedders here. Here we have all the Faber Residence like breakdown in terms of 3-bedders, because my client was looking at 3-bedder. And then we compare it to all the resale comparisons over here. So here we have the 3-bedroom count, 3-bedroom ratio, volume or transactions within the past 1 year, and how many units are on sale. So all this, right, will give you a very good understanding of the demand and supply in this particular West Coast area. And on top of that, I'll be looking at all the past 1 year transactions for all the West Coast project for the particular bedroom type, price gap with the West Coast resale, customized to each bedroom type, side by side resale layout comparison, because I think this is very important as well. You need to see whether what does Faber Residence offer and does it actually stand out in the resale market when we TOP at 2029, and also price guides per floor, because this one is a bit more unique and we are looking at lower rise development, so you need to take note on the price jump per floor and also what is the price premium between the different stacks. So if you want a personalized consultation, you can reach out to me via WhatsApp at 8484-9302. Looking forward to hear from you guys. Okay, so last but not least, here is a recap of the timeline again. For those of you that want to view the launches, you can feel free to WhatsApp me at my number, and at the same time, added value to you, you can feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And also, if you like this kind of content, in-depth analysis for the upcoming launches, you can check out my YouTube channel for further analysis on the other videos. Alright, that's it for today. Bye!